So the tiger, you know, this force, um, for me, it's a wounded tiger, which is even worse. It's a tiger that has, it's a part of me that has known the dark side. Um, it's, I can't even talk about it, but it's the way that I look at, you know, particularly special operators. So people who have been, you know, in situation where they've developed that hyper self-awareness, something that I talk about is very specific to warriors and special operators. Uh, a lot of people wonder why a lot of veterans will harm themselves, right? You think with so much strength, I mean, coming from combat, how can you not deal with regular life? Well, because it's a different world, transition, you also, you know, transition is actually a crisis of life. It's not just about let's do something else. There's a lot more that is going on. And one of the things that I explained in a video that I did about masters of self-awareness is that these people have developed this hyper self-awareness. And so imagine having that self-awareness of your own strengths and vulnerabilities while you're in a moment of crisis. It can be very, very dangerous. Because again, it's all about the self and your force. And what happens is that it's actually about the conflicts that you have inside. The battle is always about you versus you. So we project it onto others, to the outside world, but the battle is actually inside. So for example, transitioning from one life to another, now you're being challenged again, but now you carry, you know, a baggage, PTSD, not knowing how to deal with the situation, losing a sense of brotherhood that they have, you know, in situations of combat, which is a sense of feeling very bonded to a human system, something that very often when they go back to the real world, they lose, even when they connect back to the same people, because everybody's in a different situation now. It's not the same. And then add to that another crisis of identity, which is natural. Everybody has it, but these guys, everything is hyper. It's intensified. They have a crisis of, you know, what have they sent me to do? What was all that for? All these wars. So crisis of identity with regard to authority, government, and the belief, that's actually a crisis of the belief of your own identity as functioning in the real world. Again, it's actually natural. We all go through it, especially when we're like looking at our parents, and that suddenly we see them as human beings, as having feet of clay. Same with other figures of authority. That's natural because, you know, these people who are high up, we are growing up. This is what happened, and this is a crisis. Okay, that's why all of these things happen. It's natural. That's why it's so interesting to learn about archetypes. So the universality of things, to me, I always say, what does it provide? This is the way that I understand it. To understand that it's the universal in my human experience, what I'm experiencing is universal. It gives me more perspective. It makes it less personal. Less personal in terms of looking at whatever you believe in, you know, the universe, God, whatever, to say, why is this happening to me? Well, it's not happening to you. It happens to everybody, but in many forms. And yes, sometimes people have, you know, very, very dire circumstances, difficult circumstances they have to go through. But everybody is fighting a great battle, as they say. You can always find somebody who's been through worse than you. So the competition of, you know, I've been through much more than you. And by the way, I do that too. It's, you know, it's the limited self, the wounded self, that sometimes it needs to cry out and to say, hey, I've been through a lot. It's the truth. and you look at other people that you perceive as being more comfortable, and it makes you feel rage. Uh, it's a natural thing. So you have to be in touch with the things that you feel and try to give yourself some perspective and bring yourself back to a place where you can exist in the world, have more love. What a weird word to use for that, but in the English language, we have love to refer to a lot of things, but it's really a love for the human experience, the totality of it, negative, positive, everything. It's an acceptance that it exists, that you can't control everything, and that in fact, if you want to control everything the way that you want to, it's a form of tyranny if you think about it. So, just food for thought.